Okay, today what we're going to do is review for the CCA 3. We already did quizzes in class, but this is the official review, and we're going to review it. The first question says, what is the x and y-intercept and the slope of this line, right? So we got three things that's being asked. We're asked for the x and y-intercept, and we're asked for the slope, okay? Note that when we're dealing with the x-intercept, we're talking about the point where the graph crosses the x-axis, right? So this is our x-axis, and the point where the graph crosses this x-axis is right here at -5. So our x-intercept is -5, or we write -5, 0. The second thing that we're asked is to find the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. So since this is our y-axis, we come right here, and notice that the y-intercept is at 4, or we say 0, 4. The third thing that we're asked is to find the slope. Seeing as how we just identified the x and y-intercept, we're going to use those 2 points to determine the slope. So this is our rise, and then this is our run. All right, now how many units did we rise? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and we ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the slope, remember, is rise over run. So this is 4 over 5. Number 2 says, what is the slope of the line represented by 9x minus 15y equals 30? Note, it's asking for the slope here, and this is standard form. Remember from our notes, if we have anything in the form ax plus by equals c, then that's standard form. So to determine the slope, we take -a and divide it by b. Note that in this situation, a is 9, b is -15, and c is 30. So to determine the slope, we take -9 and divide it by -15. Double negatives means that we're going to come up with the positive response, so that's 9 over 15. All right, and when we simplify this, this becomes 3 over 5. That's our slope. For number 3, it says the graph models the linear relationship between the temperature of Earth's atmosphere and the altitude above sea level. Write the rate of change for the situation above. Well, what does rate of change mean? All right, rate of change means slope. So we need to find 2 points on this graph, 2 for sure points on this graph, and then determine the slope between those 2 points. So 1 point could be right here, which seems to be 10, -50. All right, and the other point could be maybe we'll say this point. And we're going to say this point is 0, 15 because it's right there in the middle. So then we need to determine the rate of change, which is rise over run, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Note that this is going to be our x1, y1. This is going to be x2, y2. So we have -50 minus 15 over 10 minus 0. So that's -65 over 10. All right, simplify it and it's -6.5. Rate of change. For number 4, it says the function y equals 2.75 plus 1.5 times x minus 1 can be used to determine the cost in dollars for a taxi ride of x miles. What is the rate of change of the cost in dollars with respect to the number of miles? Key word here, we're looking for the rate of change. Well, what's the information given so that we can find the rate of change? And that appears to be this equation right here. All right? And this is actually in point slope form. Remember that when we're dealing with point slope form, that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And our rate of change, another name for it, is slope. So we're looking for our m, the number in front of our parentheses. And the number in front of our parentheses here is 1.5. So the slope here is 1.5. Now you may be wondering, why does this not look exactly like point slope form? And the quick answer is because we need to subtract 2.75 from both sides here. So if we take this, y equals 2.75 plus 1.5 times x minus 1. If we subtract 2.75 from both sides, we end up with y minus 2.75 equals 1.5 times x minus 1. And now it looks like point slope form. But even still, the 1.5 is in that slope spot, right? So that's why we say 1.5 is the slope. Now for number 5, says what is the zero of the linear function graph below? Note here that 0 means what? X-intercept. So we're looking for the point where the graph crosses the x-axis here, which is 1. So our x-intercept, or 0, is 1, or we say 1 comma 0. Now number 6 says what is the zero of the graph? Well, we just said 0. We just said 0 means x-intercept. So we're looking on this graph, where does it cross the x-axis? Yep, about right here. So we're going to say our 0 is 5, or 5 comma 0.